Alright, everybody, it's our Klaus here, and got to move really quick today to get through this. I don't have much time, but I do want to give a huge shout out and thank you to everybody who has recently subscribed to the channel. It is greatly appreciated. Just as much thanks to everybody who has been subscribed to the channel. It's always inspiring for me to see more and more people gravitating towards this sort of information. Now I've got a tremendous scope on this video today, looking ahead at the new year that is upon us, talking about things all throughout the entertainment industry, and I want to correlate them back with quite a bit of occult literature. But before we get started, I want to do a quick recap on the Greek god Typhon, as he is hailed as the most powerful god throughout mythology, in any of his incarnations in the different mythologies. So let's look at this little bit here. This is on Mount Etna, but I'm going to give you a verbal recap here and tell you that Typhon was the last child of Gaia, who was seen as the earth, and Tartarus, who was viewed as this bottomless storm pit. And I'll leave you a link so you can read up on this further and get a description of Typhon. But what I really want to look at is that Typhon was said to be the most powerful demon or god in all of mythology, and in the battle for Mount Olympus, remember the home of the Greek gods, when he's pitted against Zeus, long story short, Zeus throws him back into Tartarus and then throws Mount Etna on top of him, trapping him underneath there. And then so since Typhon is attributed with characteristics of fire and destruction and all of these massive energy forces, he's then also likened to earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Now, bring that over here and you see that Mount Etna is one of the most active volcanoes in the world. It's located in Italy, and you have, very interestingly here, it's stating that it covers an area of 1,190 kilometers squared. Of course, dropping the zero there, you have that 119 or inverted 911, which we'll talk about all throughout today. But what I want you to see here as well is that the isolation peak for this mountain is 999 kilometers, and so that 999 is an incredibly important number. It is the inverted version of 666 if it were right just upside down there, but we'll talk about that more later. Let's take a look here at some of the actual coding for Mount Etna. I want you to see that M and E is the 13th and 5th letter, gives us that nice 135. So I'm going to be talking about this later on today. The 135th day this year is going to be May 15th, which is that 515, a way of looking at that, the apocalyptic number from Dante's Divine Comedy. So we'll come back to that more later. And 135 is also the same thing as thelemic order, terrorism, all sorts of critical ideas. Now, notice as well that 135 plus 531, its inversion there, does give us that 666. So keep that in mind as well. You also see that M can reduce as 4, E equals 5, so there's a 45. Now I'm going to be talking a lot about the connections all of this has to Donald Trump as our 45th president to come in very soon here on the 20th of January. But so just keep in mind all these 45s. You can reduce that down. 4 and 5 gives us a 9. Now look at the number of letters here, 5 and 4 in the respective words. So that inverts these reduced values up here. So it's very interesting. But again, there's that 9. If we were to put these two 9s together, we obviously have a 99, and this likens us to things such as rapture, the event, so forth. All right. Now, one of the things that we've discussed in the past very often is that the V sign or the peace sign, and of course this is according to Aleister Crowley in his book of Thoth, is representative of Typhon, or in his Egyptian form, Apophis. But so what's very interesting here is, let's pull up the letter V for you, because I do want you to see the coding that it shares with here. You can see it has the same Jewish value as Trump train, as well as is the mark of the beast, and this whole phrase to see the masterpiece ion. So do remember that the masterpiece ion does come up as Donald John Trump. It also comes up as let's backtrack this for you here. Judgment / the star. Do you remember from the Economist cover, the Judgment and the Star card are the only two that are tilted towards each other, so obviously a hidden reading to be had in there. And again, you can see the masterpiece Ion down below here, as well as the powers that be, foretold by the Bible, Book of Revelation, all of these huge concepts. If you look into my previous videos, you'll get a huge glimpse into all of these same as values. But do notice for Judgment / the star, we do have references to volcanic eruption, as well as the war of religion, the beast in Revelation, and the government is demonic. Do notice as well that between those two cards, they are 15 letters, the 15th tarot card being the devil. And so all of that quite interesting to me. But so not to let the V go too easily, I do want you to see a few other things that it links up to here. So let's just jump back so you can see this. Alright, so that the Jewish value with the V popping up is the same as Horatio Greeno. He will come up later on today. And the idea that this is the man who created the enthroned Washington statue, the one that looks markedly similar to the goat of Mendes with Salve Coagula on his arms. I'll cover that a bit more later here, but so notice as well that if we're putting the in front of Trump train, it then obviously gives us the V, but of course this gives us more of a reading on this. We get reference towards Brotherhood of Darkness, fascist dictatorship, my forehead is sealed, and if you look down below here at the ES values, things such as order out of chaos, manifest destiny, a reference here to January 15th, which is a day that I've definitely been plugging for a while now to keep your eye on, as historically quite a few interesting things have happened, and of course 1 and 15, if we were to look at it as such, gives us reference to things such as law and order. Quite a few other pieces there. Notice as well economic meltdown and Obama's damaged right eye. One of the things I want to talk about today is that once we get to October, it will actually mark the 88th year since the Great Depression began here in America. So all of that really interesting to think about. I also want you to keep in mind that if we're looking into Don Trump, that his simple value for Don Trump itself is actually, or it's actually Donald Trump, excuse me, you have it here, is 138, which is the same as the brothers, the number 7, great architect, master mason, behind the 11. Again, all of these super critical things. And just remember, thinking back to the Misfits coverage that I did on this Bullet EP, that's clearly Kennedy getting his brains blown out. But the A side here, we are 138. And again, I've done a tremendous amount of research on this for you. Here's a nice look at the Eliphas Levi tribute, essentially, here enthroned Washington. Remember, this was unveiled when Levi was 22, the master builder number. So a ton of really interesting things there. But so with all of that, just kind of stated in the beginning there, let's really get into this coding now. On the left side of your screen, notice the Jewish value for Mount Etna is 566. Now this is the same as High by the Beach, and this is a huge song of Lana Del Rey's that I've been looking into, and I want you to see a number of things here. First of all, the fact that the actual promo shot for this song features Lana with this nice telescope over her right eye, but you have this huge V that has been inserted into the lens right there. And I would even make an argument that you have a V, this coming down is a 1, and then another V right here with this necklace for that 515. So very interesting for me to see that there. And also keep in mind, one of the reasons that I keep focusing so much on this song is because there's this very bizarre spoken word piece at the end where she says, everyone can start again, not through love, but through revenge. Through the fire, we're born again. Peace by vengeance brings the end. Of course, the concept of the end being something that I've talked about a lot and will come up again today. But so just do notice for all these other bits here, High by the Beach being released on August 10th of 2015 is interesting because that 810 has a simple value of 135, and so you can see again how that just loops back to everything I was talking about moments ago in the intro there. Notice as well with High by the Beach references to, because it has an English and simple of 666, 111, that is the same as Mark of Beast, Illusion. You get also these references to Formation, Seth Rogen, again, all of these huge concepts that we've looked into the past. But I really want to keep moving here. So do notice that if we take that Jewish value 566 and times it as such, 5 times 66, we do get 330. Now, this is pretty big. So not only is it the same as Wiggum, but it's the same as Act 6. This is from David Blaine's newest special, Beyond Magic, where he's performing the bullet catch. And this is actually the scene from the MGM where it kind of goes wrong and the mouth guard shatters, which bizarrely yesterday on January 7th I saw a number of articles reporting on as if it had just happened within the past couple of days. But do remember that that special aired back in November of 2016 on the 15th. So I saw a lot of channels reporting on that as if it just happened yesterday, and that should be a red flag to most of you that a lot of channels aren't doing their due research and things. They see a headline from the mainstream and they report on it without looking into it further. And if you went back and watched the special, you would see that since November 15 we'd had that quote that everybody was reading yesterday as if he had just said that. So very interesting to me to note that. And again, Act 6 having the same Jewish value as the Trump train. You can see all these other pieces here, New Age, Satan, laws, all of that. Alright, so get back now. Notice for the Jewish value for Mount Etna, we have references to planet Nibiru, as well as Gematria is not a game, Feel My Fire, Salma Hayek, who I'm going to talk about later here, but notice also 118. Now this is interesting because that is actually the same simple value as Tartarus, right, where Typhon was said to be thrown into with Mount Etna covering him there. And so also very interesting, same as New Columbia, remember what could essentially be our 51st state, because on the same ballot that Trump became president, they were voting in Washington D.C. for statehood. So notice as well references to Great Work, Comet Impact, as well as Cheth Chariot. Remember that is the Holy Grail, as well as reference to the Fire of God, CERN Collider. You see here the number is 56. That is for the end. You can look into that. But notice back on the left side of your screen here, we do get reference to the word restriction. Now remember, this is the unacceptable concept in Thelema, which you can find in Book of the Law, I think, verse 41 or so in the first actual chapter. But so keep moving. The ES values for Mount Etna here, Hermetic, Kabbalah, as well as conspiracy. You have this reference here to 88. This is going to keep coming up today. 88 written out like that does come up in the Jewish value for Typhon, if we were looking into him as such. I want you to also see 411, a reference to Elm Street as far as I'm concerned, where Kennedy was assassinated on the 326th day of the year. I'll come back to that later. But see as well here reference to death sentence, so mote it be. You have Galaxy Wheel, which is a very important card, the fortune card, the 10th card that you absolutely should look into. But notice as well, beginning and end, tombstone, and then we can invert that 411 and have it as 11-4. Now, this is critical to me because it is the same as DC statehood, and you're going to see time and again that this is one of the pieces that seems to be most important here, and it's also the same as Old Faithful. Do remember O and F, the 15th and 6th letter. We have that 156, that's the Scarlet Woman, coming out of that 11-letter phrase there. Remember the lust card in which they excuse me, she is actually discussed in Book of Thoth. But so in any case, look at this here, references to Holocaust, Kim Jong-un, you have history, New World, World War, as well as DC earthquake, a written out formula of Enri, and many other pieces there. So I really want to keep moving though, because there's so much to talk about. So now notice I have pulled up here Washington 7, and this is a play on Washington DC, because D and C, the 4th and 3rd letters, we add them, we get 7. So notice Washington DC's Jewish value is the same as Salve Coagula. Remember what is written across the goat of Mendy's arms. I don't know if I have him readily available for you. There you have that. And of course you can see the striking similarity to the enthroned Washington that we showed you in the very beginning there. There you have it, maybe. Okay, so there's that. You can take a look. But so let's keep moving here though, because I want you to see not only do we have all of this, but take a look at the Jewish value for that here, because we have reference to holy number 3/8 as well as number 33, the new earth, grand unveilings, references to the United States of America and Rome, as well as the Federal Reserve Bank. Now that simple value of 158 that carries around the Jewish value for it there. I do want you to see it come up. It will come up later today here, and it's going to be his day of be with us. And as I will discuss, this is from the book of Thoth, in which they're talking about essentially the apocalypse. And you can see here all of these very interesting pieces there to tie it in, but so that having the same coding as Washington, D.C. So now let me jump back here though, because I want to talk about this Washington 7 concept, because again, D and C, 4 and 3 gives us 7, but so Washington 7 as a total is 15 letters. Do remember that 7 is the number of points on the mark of the beast, as well as the seal of Babylon, as well as the number of deadly sins, colors in a rainbow, musical tones, on and on and on with the things that are put into this number. And so let's jump back here now. Let me take a look at some seals for you, because this is what's really interesting to me about DC. So here's their flag, and we have here 3 stars, each with 5 points. 3 times 5, that's 15. Again, that's the devil card. And this right here, these 2 red stripes going across here, I see them as a giant 11 going down the flag there. Again, could be just me, but that again is this lust card. It's the number of points on the Cliffoth, on and on and on with that. But so keep moving here though. Notice for Washington 7, and I want to just make sure of something here. Alright, so for Washington, D.C.'s English and simple value, it might be a little bit different than that 158 that I was showing a second ago. So just notice this here, though. It is the same as Eye of Horus, Aeon of Horus, the Path of Death, Mind Control, Church of Satan, and there you have the Washington, D.C. Of course, the same as Arise, Barack, Arise, which go watch my President Equals Pretend video for more information on that. But so, getting back here, though, let's look at the actual seal for DC, because this is very interesting to me. And again, they have all of these references to the number 7. I just do want you to see, I mean, it's pretty much anywhere we look here. You have these 7 lines across the grass over here. Even if I was looking at the actual White House, you see if I count the columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 going across there. It's an incredibly phallic representation that I'm seeing. But even over here, 7 little birds, if you were to count them. You've got 7 tunnel openings over here. And what's really interesting to me, and obviously we've got some V's that we can most certainly read into, but in the middle here, she is holding this letter 0, which we could look at as the 15th letter, right, the devil card, or we could invert it as 51, and remember, DC is on par to becoming the 51st state, and so this is again saying how all of this is connected, and that we should absolutely be paying attention to it. Now notice as well here, for the Jewish value, you have reference to European Organization for Nuclear Research, so that is CERN. I want you to see as well the number 642 written out. This is going to come up again later, but do you notice it's the same as 515, Bullet Catch, the Occult, Earthquake, again, Holy Grail, Bloodlines, all of these critical things. And this will come up again later, as I'm saying, with this Be With Us research. So again, more on that in just a moment. But notice if we play with those numbers just a little bit and we turn it into 426, it's now the same as Arnold Meshi's. And remember, this man died on November 5th, and again, thinking to that 115 that we can get from January 15th, and how I was saying that is a day to watch for, but it wasn't really reported on until the 9th of November last year, right? That's when Trump was announced president. But notice here that Meshi's died at 93, that master thelemic number. It's got the nice one eye that's nice and darkened for you here. You can read into him further and see everything that he had to do with the civil rights movement throughout his life. Very interesting guy. But in any case, case, for that article to come out on the same day that Trump's announced president, and for Arnold Meshi's to have the same value as Make America Great Again, is a little too much for me to take as a coincidence. Notice as well, full of lies is preaching hate, the cross, and satanic dogmas. All of these things defining the world that we live in. Now look down below, back to the left side of your screen. ES values for Washington 7, you do have the 777 written out there. Now we've seen this a couple of times coming up in the coding. Let me see if I have one readily available for you, and probably not. So I'm not going to stress this too much, but if I can get it. Alright, nope, so I'm not going to worry about it, but you can see there that it does come up. That is the Jewish value, I believe, to have it be order out of chaos, since we did see that earlier as an ES value. But so keep that in mind. Huge idea, obviously something a lot of people talk about with all of this, but you have reference to Donald Trump blackened, military complex, first-degree murder, and this reference to approaching the deadline, Jesus' second coming, and Washington State. Now, let's talk a bit about Washington here. It's a 10-letter word. W is the 23rd letter. So if we add 10 and 23, we get 33. Remember, this is the master Masonic number. Now, you also can look at this a different way. If we reduce W to 5 and just add 10 and 5, the number of letters, we get 15. Again, this is the devil's card, and I want you to know that we reduce that down one further, as 1 and 5 is 6, which gives us now reference to the brother's card. Now, I'm going to read you a very quick excerpt here from Book of Thoth, and I want to pull this card up for you because it absolutely deserves some analysis here. But so here's this, and this is page 80 from the Book of Thoth, and he's talking about how this is one of the most obscure and important cards throughout the whole tarot deck. This and its complementary card, the 14th card, the art card. So let's do a little talk here on these concepts such as the sword and what all of this means. Okay, so you have here written, the sword is primarily an engine of division. In the intellectual world, which is the world of the sword suit, it represents analysis. The card and Atu 14 together compose the comprehensive alchemical maxim, solve a coagula. So let's pull this all the way to the top over here, so we can have it next to all of these other important things that we're talking about. And so remember, the fact that this card comes together with another for the maxim solve a coagula is incredibly important, because that is what is written on the goat of Mendes' arms, the 15th card, and it reduces down to 6, and you see there it references him again. Now I want to read you this bit here talking about the shedding of blood is necessary, for God did not hear the children of Eve until blood was shed, and that is external religion. But Cain spake not with God, nor had the mark of initiation upon his brow, so that he was shunned of all men, until he had shed blood. And this blood was the blood of his brother. This is a mystery of the 6th key of the tarot, which ought not to be called the lovers, but the brothers. And so this is a huge piece here, especially when we're looking to the brotherhood of darkness and all these concepts that we talk about. But you can read further in this, and it says the key is that the card represents the creation of the world as intervened by the powers that be. So obviously that is the robed figure in the back there, marrying the duality and all of these things that again define the world that we live in. And we can look at this 33 and this sword and all of these things here from Formula of Inri written on here. And again, I want to kind of pull this up here so it's all readily available for us. But now let's, with that in mind here, all these solve coagulas, remember that's the same as Washington, D.C., all this stuff. I want to show you chapter 33 from the Book of Lies here. Again, another Crowley text, but notice it is Baphomet, and it starts that eagle is God, and it says, in his claws he bears all of these things, and again, clearly representing this. You even see that 33, the sword, Inri, all of it in there. Now, goes on to talk about This is the Grandmaster's word here, but that he did not speak of the ass-headed god. And so again, all of this is interesting. You can see here the supplementary material for the Book of Lies, in which they're giving you more elaboration, because again, these are very vague and obscure chapters here, but you can see that they're talking perhaps about sun worship here. And again, all of these secret societies ultimately come down to that. Now, what I want to focus on is, because since it's talking about ass-headed gods, sun worship, all of this stuff, I want you to see that the word anus is an anagram for a sun. And you can see here that I've taken these three words that commonly go together with that. It's interesting that our ass is what we use to moon somebody, and then, right, they see a sun, or our anus. And so in any case, here's an anagram set for those three words together, and you see one of them is as Mason onus, and that is responsibility. And you also have Masons on USA. Now, there's a lot to be said on that, but I want to keep going here. Notice, I want to talk about another state, and it makes sense because we're talking about chapter 33, and the 33rd state to be admitted into the Union was Oregon. And so, very interesting to me, but do see here that February 14th, 1859 is when that came into play. And so, 157 years ago, same as formula of Henry, United States, as well as Four Horsemen, Jesus is Satan, the whole written out formula for Tetragrammaton. You can see Grand Unveiling, The Simpsons, Beast from the Sea, all of these huge numbers, so be sure to look through that there. Now, after we get to February 14th, it's going to be 158 years, and again, this is the number that we were talking about earlier, but the same as Salve Coagula, Double 13, Evil President, reference to tarot card reading, the Most High, and again, you can just see how this goes all throughout so much of this research that I've done for you, and so a lot to be said for it. Now let's keep moving here though, because we're back to Washington State, and it's important to note that this was the 42nd state admitted into the Union on November 11th, that nice 11/11. I've talked about this in the past, and at the end of this video we're going to talk about chapter 42 of the Book of Lies, Dust Devils, and what that has to do with everything. So for now though, let's shift gears, and I want to talk a little bit about this Sausage Party movie that came out recently. And remember, all the way in the beginning here with Mount Etna, we had this reference to Salma Hayek. She got me thinking about Sausage Party because she is the voice of one of the characters. So do notice this is the slogan for the film, get your fill. Of course, it's 11 letters. The lust card makes all too much sense. But you do have references to Bloodlines of the Illuminati, March 11th. Again, 3 times 11, there's that 33. And Holy Hand of Second Death. Now all of that's stunning to me, but take out the ES values here, because they're the same as Trump Train, Electoral College, Inauguration, Understanding. Remember, this is one of the names for the Scarlet Woman. You have Forehead to be Sealed, 555. I urge you to look back at when Trump was running, the little banner that would always be in front of him that had the 5 stars, Trump, Pence written on there. Both those names, 5 letters, the 5 stars, you see. But notice as well, you have reference to U.S. President, the word Abrahadabra, Biotechnology. If you look back into my stuff on Mildred Z. Solomon, you'll see that through all of this, I was actually able to show you beforehand that Trump was going to take that presidential spot. Now, keep moving here. In looking at Sausage Party, the actual name of the film, you get references to nuclear treaty, civil rights, and Comet Elenin nuclear disaster. Down below for the ESs, we have references to the Illuminati, hidden witness, triple number. Remember earlier we were seeing that holy triple number, the 3/8, all of those sorts of things. Do remember, as we've talked about in the past, that David Blaine White as well as Donald J. Trump share that English value of 888, and that it is very important, as well as the secret path, occult gematria, the path of none. Remember, that is absolutely the path of death. You also have nuclear weapon, the Comet Elenin, destruction, and unseal the book. So a massive number there. And again, I've talked about this very extensively in the past, but do see as well references to vital secrets and the number 360. So very interesting, because 360 is the same Jewish value as the CERN black hole, as well as the angel of death and sacred scarab. So again, that is a huge concept looking back to Egyptian worship and all of those sorts of things. So now let's keep moving here. This movie is 88 minutes long. Remember, as I said earlier, that's the Jewish value for Typhon is written out as 88. 88 also comes out in the Mount Etna coding, so see the beginning of the video for that. A bunch of stuff here pertaining to when the movie was released and then when it was put out onto DVD. You can see here that the DVD date was election day last year, so very, very interesting to me. But so let's connect this CERN black hole bit here to all of this, because it might seem shocking to you that we can actually do that with this movie, because they're discussing the black hole essentially in parallel dimensions. So you have at the end here Firewater, who's one of these non-perishables, and of course the Twinkie there. Think back to Ghostbusters and all of the connections people have made with CERN, but he's one of the guys who's in on this whole portal with, once they discover that they can that they are actually computer animated and they break the fourth wall and all of this stuff, they want to go explore the great beyond. And so they head in here through this, as you see, toilet, and it's very interesting because the first word in the movie is shit, and then the end of the movie here is them going in through the porcelain god. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But I want to show you Firewater here, because he's the one who's bringing all this about, and he's got the really interesting name, frankly, because it's a compound word of two opposing elements, fire and water. So if we look at it as a compound word, we get F is 6, W is 23. So we can look at that as an inverted 326, or just add them all together for that nice 11 in a 9-letter word. So again, we have that 911 or 119. However we want to view that, it can come down to 99. And of course you can see all the ways here to get it down to the devil card and the lover's card if we view it as a single word. So Firewater's Jewish value is the same as light of judgment and great authority, catastrophic destruction. You do see tyrant ruler, the crown, and references to earthquakes and LHC stuff. So notice the ES values for this here, same as 9/11, as well as Zionism, sudden death, the world, masonry, Qliphoth, vitriol. Remember, this is from the 14th tarot card. This is the secret maxim that we can get an anagram, or excuse me, acronym for out of the phrase across the back banner there. And then this reference to brothers, which, as I just showed you, is actually the lover's card. And so again, those two together being a part of Solve Coagula, just like Firewater here, the opposing pieces. If you look at the 14th card and even the 6th card, it's all about uniting opposing forces. So that is massive there. And again, this is the sort of thing that, this is exactly why they make the film seem so vulgar and just like you would not be able to enjoy or get anything out of it at all, because they're actually hiding these huge truth bits for you in there. And again, this is just like with Thelema, where most people's awareness of it is that there was a pervert named Aleister Crowley, and he was into sex magic, lots and lots and lots of sex, which is how this film is advertised, and that's why it's get your fill. But again, if you can see past that and see the true value here, and see that they're intentionally misleading you to keep you away from this stuff, you'll be a lot better off. But so now notice here the non-perishables. This is the group, those, right, the divine elders of this society. But notice here that there is reference to Order of the Rose, and think of the Rosicrucian order and all of the huge important pieces with that. But you also have Master Freemason, Lucifer / Christ, sacrificed on cross, as well as the Foundation, U.S. cult, Secret Sun, all of these huge pieces here, alright? So notice as well, the ES values, same as the formula of Enri, also the same as Aleister Crowley, 111, which remember is the English value of 666. You see again the United States, tyrant ruler, Rosicrucian order, FEMA internment camp, the Four Horsemen. I want you to see for that number 133. It's written out there as a simple value here. That is the same as this is a hoax, government, book of the law. You have Solve Coagula. You also see White House and God Bless America, New World Ahead. Again, highest magician comes up in there. That's huge, talking about the Magus, as we will be in just a moment here. So now keep going though, because there's so much more. I want you to see porcelain god. Again, P reduces to 7, G is the 7th letter. So you've got that nice 77 built right in there. But so porcelain God, and that's where this story ends, is them essentially connecting with God and going to other dimensions. But you see reference to mirror, the blessed, pagan religion, and groceries, what this is all about, what they use to convey this very profound story to you. Now notice the ES values for that: keeper of fire, order of death. You have all-seeing eye, and Springfield, which is where Obama said that he would be running for president. So of course I did a video on that. It's very interesting. But look here, if we add the in front of that for the porcelain God, 15 letters. There's your devil card reference again. You also have reference to biblical occult, the trinity of life, death, and rebirth, satanic beast, and the black plague. All just stunning to think about. But notice the ES values down here, same as 36. And Truman, remember in the Truman Show movie all about controlled reality, he lives in unit number 36. And that number, the 36 triangular number, is 666. So all of that very interesting. Notice as well, same as the path of Thoth, this is the lust card. You also see again references to Masonic imagery, veiled allegory, and here you have as well Full Metal Jacket written out just plain and simple for you there. And there's quite a bit that I do want to talk about with that. Do remember with the end of that movie, and I'll come back to all of this, they're marching and Vietnam is burning, but they have the nice 11s in the back here with these towers. Again, that master evil number of points on the cliff off, the lust card, but they're singing the Mickey Mouse theme song as they're walking past that there. And so I don't think I have too many other things for that pulled up on you here. I've got this for you so you can see that the movie is 116 minutes long, and again that 116 critical, remember it. But if you were to rotate that upside down, it does become a 9/11, just like there is a 9/11 release date in the United Kingdom for that movie. So again, very, very interesting here. But so now let's bridge over into the second half of this video, and I want to talk about this card, the Lord of Illusion, since we talk so much about perfect illusion. And do remember that that would come up with coding for the masterpiece Ion, Donald John Trump, all of those things. But I want to read you this brief excerpt here from Book of Thoth, starting on page 130, because it discusses, and this is going to give us more to talk about with the number 42 later as well. But so again, this is supplementary material for the Magus card, and he has written here, and before him is the table that is the table of wickedness, the 42-fold table. This table is connected with the 42 assessors of the dead, for they are the accusers whom the soul must baffle, and with the 42-fold name of God, for this is the mystery of iniquity, that there was ever a beginning at all. And this Magus casteth forth by the might of his 4 weapons, veil after veil, 1,000 shining colors, ripping and tearing the ether, so that it is like jagged saws, or like broken teeth in the face of a young girl, or like disruption or madness. There is a horrible grinding sound, maddening. This is the mill in which the universal substance, which is ether, was ground down into matter. A voice says, Behold the brilliance of the Lord, whose feet are set upon him that pardoneth transgression. Behold the 6-fold star that flameth in the vaults, the seal of the marriage of the great white king and his black slave. Remember, the 6-fold star, the hexagram, is 2 triangles. They're opposing, its duality, all of those things. You have one more bit here. So I looked into the stone and beheld the 6-fold star. The whole ether is as tawny clouds, like the flame of a furnace. And there is a mighty host of angels, blue and golden, that throng it, and they cry, Holy, holy, holy art thou, that are not shaken in the earthquakes and in the thunders. The end of things is come upon us. The day of be with us is at hand. For he hath created the universe and overthrown it, that he might take his pleasure thereupon. So we're going to expand on that in just a moment here, but let's take a look at this for the Lord of Illusion. Remember what that supplementary material is titled and the coding there. So that phrase is 17 letters. Remember, the last card in the Economist Tarot spread on their cover is the star card. So very important there. You see references to vaccine, Manhattan, New York, mysticism, psychops, all these things directly tying us to Trump. The ES values here, we have a reference reference to January 16th, and we can see that as a very important day. That's Sade's birthday. I absolutely urge you to keep an eye out for important things on that day. But you see here as well, conspiracy theory reveals a hidden truth, Barack Obama financial crisis, Lord of the Gates of Death, the Large Hadron Collider, Comet Elenin rapture, Obama's rise to power, Obama's deadly wound healed, and in the heart of the earth. Remember the vitriol coating there. Now let's keep moving here though, because be with us, remember they say the day of be with us is at hand. So that part is on page 131 in the book of Thoth. Notice here we have reference to the 11-pointed star. What I see is obviously the Statue of Liberty reference. Interesting as well because that monument is 93 meters tall, that master thelemic number. So let's look at some of these dates here because it writes out July 9th, the 190th day this year with 175 remaining. Do remember that 190, we were just looking at it because that is the simple value for the non-perishables, for Rosicrucian order, the formula of Inri, the United States, the four horsemen, all of those things. Notice as well with 175 days remaining from there, we have reference with 175 to satanic worship in the number 121. Now this is actually a really big deal to have this 121 because that is the same as Don Trump, blood sacrifice, Antichrist. It will come up again later today, so I'll talk about it then. But notice as well here, May 11th comes up. So again, the 5th month, 11th day, we could look at that as 5 times 11 for 55, or invert it for that 115 again. Remember, that's the same as Law and Order, and also likens us to all these other big days of death where we've seen a 115 come across there. Now notice that will be the 131st day, and that 131 actually has the same coding as Trump Pence. Alright, so let me pull that up for you here very quickly. So there you have that, and you can also see it's the same as serial killer, death penalty, the great beast, and John F. Kennedy. You also see references to the chosen one, Islamic State, and Barack Hussein. So notice there with the 234 days remaining, 234 is the same as the mark, but if you mirror and add 234, you do get 666, and again you can bring that down to that 216, which is the simple value for 510 and 5. Another way of interpreting that apocalyptic number from Dante's Divine Comedy. Notice as well reference to the religion war and to delete America June 3rd. And so very interesting because June 3rd this year is going to be the 154th day of the year. 154 is the same as Antichrist, as well as Queen of Babylon, the Law of Thelema, Restoration. You can see it's the same as a ton of things that I've talked to you in the past about, including Kiss Love Gun. Remember, there's 15 figures on that cover, all of the amazing symbolism that I've broken down for you, but watch the previous videos and you'll see quite a bit more explained with that. And so notice as well that 211, the number of days remaining there, is the same as Order of Rosicrucian, and this is actually the same as the Ralph Wiggum book, who again I posited to you as a very central piece to all of this. He's used as an allegory to represent things. Now let's take this all one step further here and note that since it says delete America June 3rd, June 3rd obviously resonates to check into, but so notice here that June 3rd 2013, and I don't know if I have this, I do for you, was the release date for the movie This Is the End. And again, Seth Rogen, a huge part of this here, the director, one of the producers, writers, all of that. He does have the ES value of 666, 111 as well, Mark of Beast, all of that. So it's absolutely interesting to note that this movie that's literally about the biblical apocalypse happening and they're all playing themselves and it just begins, that it has that release date, right? This is the end, all of that. And what takes it a step further for you there is that the bullet catch has the same ES values as it, and again telling you to see Mark of Beast, Satan and Moloch, all of this stuff, the Holy Grail, Vision of Pan. I mean, this is a massive set of information that correlates here, alright? But so keep going. I want you to see that June 3rd this year is going to be 207 days after Trump was announced president on 11/9 last year. So 207 is the same simple value as the number of the beast, the New World Order, the Star of Sirius, Illuminati Project. all of these huge bits here, especially connecting back to these lyrics from Del Rey, but it's also the same as an 156. Again, one of the many ways that you can break down the Scarlet Woman. It is actually her designated number, and I want you to see Planet Trump. This is what's written on the Economist cover. Not only is it 11 letters, the Lust card, Scarlet Woman, all of that, but its simple value is 156, so referencing to 666, 33, as above, so below, all of these critical points. Now again, go back and watch those videos for more on it, but I want you to see as well that it could also be seen as 6 weeks and 26 days, so 626 if we were to pop that in here. It's a very interesting number because we get blood rituals, master builder, impossible coincidences, a reference to Resh, the sun, again what all of this comes down to in the phrase engineering disaster. So very stunning. Now take a look at this over here, because if we take it one step further, June 3rd is going to be 135 days after the inauguration on 120 this month here. And so again, do remember that 120 would pop us up with things such as Illuminati, the Truth, 4-4, the Architect, Hidden Master, Secret Chiefs, Living Legend. Again, you can see all the ways that I break these words and phrases down for you, so you can see their immense importance. And again, that 135 we will come back to at the end, but I will also show you that 135 written out here is again a very big deal, because you can see it shares coding with the Rapture, as well as Baphomet / the Devil, the Most High, and on and on. Alright, again, I don't want to belabor here. I want to try to keep moving, because we still actually got a ways to go. So now notice here, we're still talking about be with us, and again, all of these dates very important, but notice that the ES value is the same as 515, bullet catch, statehood, Holy Grail, earthquake, the occult, shooting, solar flare, bloodlines, the cross, the Messiah. Reference here to Disneyland. Now, I want you to see here, let's talk a little bit, since we've got all these Disneyland, Mickey Mouse stuff kind of popping up. As I stated in the beginning of this video, the 135th day of this year will be May 15th, and so that very important 515, and again it pops up right here, so it's critical to think of all of this. But notice as well, if we just add that 5 plus 1 plus 5, we get 11. 2017 actually reduces to 1110 or 111. So again, I just want you to see the immense importance to this, that comes up, the English value of 1110 as Donald John Trump, the masterpiece ion, a perfect illusion, right? All this stuff we looked at earlier, Book of Revelations. And if we were to just tamp that down and do the 111, you would get, in fact, right, the 666, you would get Mark of Beast, Illusion, Forehead to be Sealed, Seth Rogen, okay, all of this stuff. Iconoclast, which is a very important concept to keep in mind with all of this, but just see how that all just comes back. And May 15th historically is a very interesting day. There was lots of wars that I saw, lots of prisoners of war taken around, a lot of assassination attempts. McDonald's actually opened on May 15th in like 1940 or something, but also very interesting, Mickey Mouse made his first appearance on May 15th, 1928. That was currently 88 years ago. And so the very first one was called Plain Crazy. Look at this. What the Jewish value is, that 1110. You'll notice as well reference to the star, the moon, the sun, true holy angel of death, Project Monarch. Again, this is all the mind control pieces. Down below you see his ES is the same as Antichrist, Don Trump, blood sacrifice, second coming, the Great Seal, and top secret. Alright, so now let's hone in on this 135th day a little more here. January 20 to May 15th this year is 116 days. Remember, that was also the link for Full Metal Jacket, and you can reduce it down, get the 66. That difference is 3 weeks, 26 days. Remember, Kennedy was assassinated on the 326th day of the year. Now, notice this back here. This is supposed to say 515, 28, I guess, when the Mickey Mouse cartoon first came out. 1928 to Inauguration Day this year is 88 years, 8 months, and 6 days. So this is really interesting. If we do 888 times 6, it's 5,328. If you were to divide that number by 8, it is 666. So very interesting to me. But keep going here. You got a couple more. November 9th, 2016 to May 15th this year does give us that value, or a difference of 188 days. That is the Satanic bloodline, demon mind control, and of course you can do 1 times 88 equals 88, which is the same simple value as Trump. And you can see here as well, 6 months, 7 days. You can reduce that down to 13. You can look at it as a simple value of 67 and get Satanic, Killer, Bohemian, Black Death, all of these critical things. Now let's keep going here. If you look at the full phrase, the day of be with us, again, what that part of Lord of Illusion is talking about, you get the Jewish value here of 1888. This happens to be the year that the Washington Monument was completed, and again you can reduce it down for the 888 there. But so check this out, you get this phrase, the MIC, which I argue is the military industrial complex, is the KEY. Their MO, that means modus operandi, their method of operation, is to USE, you and me, and that is absolutely the way that they operate. They utilize us to do things for them, to enable them, to give them essentially the power to carry out the things that they do. And as I stated earlier, at the end of Full Metal Jacket, they're actually, you know, yelling the Mickey Mouse song as they parade across the destroyed Vietnam, and again the 11's in the background, on and on. But notice the ES values for this are the same as Dante's Divine Comedy. Remember, each of those words is 6 letters, so you've got that 666 in there. Same as Barack Hussein Obama Jr., the Tree of Life and Death. You have references to Push the Envelope, as well as the Secret Doctrine, Number of a Man, Barack Obama. This reference here to 88 years, and remember, like I said earlier, this will be the 88th year since America started the Great Depression back on October 29th, 1929. So see as well here reference to tarot divination, Return of the King, and underground caves. Also worth noting here, if you pull out military industrial complex, you can get all sorts of interesting references up top here. But notice as well the ES values. 1932, this is the year another George Washington building was completed. And then 322 for the symbols, that skull and bones number. But check this out, organizations of global umbrella as well as instrument of destruction. And what I really want you to see here is the difference between these two. The Washington Monument, completed in 1888, and the George Washington National Masonic Memorial, completed in 1932. If you subtract those 2 years, you get 44. Again, that massively important number. If you add the heights of these buildings, one's 555, the other's 333, gives you that 888 again. And so I've talked about both of these numbers already extensively today, so be sure to pay attention to that. Now notice here, I've got another very brilliant way of breaking these numbers down for you so that you can see that this is all connected to the same bits. Now notice here as well, day of be with us. This is another phrasing of this here. It's very important to get this variance. But you have the second coming of Jesus Christ as well as the number 177. Now remember, a simple value of 177 is actually the same as the Scarlet Woman. And so you have there the mark of the beast, I am the Antichrist, the Solomon key, the rising of the dead, eye in the triangle, open the third eye. You see as well 4th of July, and that would just be a befitting day as any to bring all of this to a culmination, because America can be very, very ironic when it feels like it. Alright, you also have the Doomsday device, just a ton of really interesting things. The alien invasion, the honey mouth. Remember thinking to someone eating the honey scroll and prophesizing about all of this. But as you will see here as well, we have references to 3 days after a full moon. Now I don't have these pulled up for you, but we do have a full moon on January 12th coming up here, and so 3 days after is that January 15th, which I've been articulating throughout this video. So again, we'll be very curious to see see what, if anything, happens on that day. Reference to all life will be destroyed, unholy government, Walter Disney plan. You have this reference to June 6th at 6 a.m. That is a 666, and that is on the 157th day. Again, the day before, June 5th, we'd be very curious about as well, because 156, the Scarlet Woman, all of those sorts of things. Alright, so keep all of that in mind. You also see hiding behind a veil and manipulating others. So that's front row center for all of this. I want you to see as well the ES values here. Again, just massive. We've talked about them earlier in the video, but something I want to reiterate for you here is that born to kill peace is what we get from, if I were looking at the cover for Full Metal Jacket here, you see born to kill and then the peace sign there. And remember, you have to do this sort of interpretation because you'll also notice that there are 7 bullets on the front of that helmet there. So again, no mistake that that comes into play. Remember that February 14th this year will mark 158 years of statehood for the 33rd state, Oregon, right? Notice as well we can say double 13, which you can look at as 2 M's because that is the 13th letter. You can think Mickey Mouse with that if you want to. Very interesting to me, but you also see these references to more tarot card readings. The simple value of 165, remember, which is the same as so many critical things I've shown you, sacred geometry and nuclear fusion. Now, you can break all of this down further and further. As you can see, I've done here the day of, give us references here to September 9th. This year is the 252nd day with 113 remaining, so obviously I'd still say keep that on your radar. But you see here as well these references to the drill sergeant, on and on and on, that start coming up with all of this day of coding for you here. So I do want you to see, let's pull this over, because it's I feel like it's critical that in Full Metal Jacket, when the drill sergeant is shot, it is in the bathrooms. He's yelling, "What is this Mickey Mouse shit?" before he comes out, and then the next scene is this clearly possessed looking cadet here. But so in any case, shoots him, and then you have that. So these porcelain god bits, and again, remember, just from everything in Sausage Party, connecting back to that. In Full Metal Jacket, you've got this guy asking him, "Where's the weenie?" There's John Wayne references throughout. Mickey Mouse all over the place here. There's these 3, even just his head. And again, there's a lot that I could go into with that, but I really want to try to keep this concise. So let me jump back here. Now, since in that, remember talking about this whole MIC thing, military industrial complex, it's the KEY. So MIC adds a Jewish value of 42, and that's interesting to me. And this brings us all the way back here to chapter 42 from the Book of Lies, in which we're talking about this dust devils is the name of the actual chapter. So again, the 4-4 that you can get out of those 2 D's that are in the front there, and even the inverted 64 that you have from the number of letters there. Remember, that is the same as Yahweh, Thelema, Klaus, all of these things, okay? The land, very important number. But so notice here, the Jewish value references to mystery of God, the nuclear consciousness, the United States Congress, the rapture day comes, and also this reference to Seattle, which is interesting, Space Needle, all of that. But notice the ES values here. Again, we've talked about these all throughout, but that 135, May 15th, you have reference here to La Commedia è Finita, which is the comedy is finished, which would essentially be the completion of the great work. It's a tremendous amount I could expand upon here, but keep noticing, again, like I said in the beginning of this video, references to terrorism, Thelemic Order, Bohemian Grove, Wall Street and Stock Exchange. You also see God of Baphomet, the radiance of God, lots of sex, final step in Mount Sinai. I want to keep going here because we're almost done, and I wish I had the screenshots for you here or something, but now I want you to keep in mind that these 5 V's, this is how the Dust Devils chapter ends. It's talking about a camel walking through the sand, and again, there's an immense amount of research for you to do on this, but in Sausage Party, there's this scene where a woman keeps picking out her camel toe, and is actually this woman who goes on to murder a bunch of the fruits, and they actually find out through her that that the great beyond is not what they think it is. It's where they're murdered and eaten and all of these things. So in any case, Dust Devils ending with this, very interesting. You have reference to the CERN, European Organization for Nuclear Research is the death of humanity. So massive phrase to come out there. Now notice as well for the ES values here, you do have direct reference to the New Aeon, Great Dragon, Grim Reaper, Martial Law, It's an Omen, Accidental Death, and 911. So very interesting as well, because it is talking about there, it says I'm a unitard, and so of course that's very important, because if we were to think back here to this video that I did discussing the ice cream episode of The Simpsons, Ralph actually seals his head with the ice cream there. And again, just drifting you back a little bit here towards Pez theory, if I can find the image for you. We'll put these two next to each other here so that you can see that the new intro for The Simpsons has him impaling his right eye with the ice cream there. Again, the fraudulent founder head on him, the ice cream going in. And then very interesting that we found this later on, that Ralph is actually said to die in 2017. Of course, he would be 11 at that age. I've looked into all of these other codings in the past, so absolutely tune into those. Now, I want to do one kind of supplementary piece here today, because this has been going on, and this whole Grizzly Step thing, hacking Vermont, and all of the controversy. I still don't even understand the extent of the hacking of the election. It sounds like they might try to use it some way to keep Obama in, because they can say until we can prove that the election was valid and not tampered with to interfere with, democracy, all that shit, that I get to stay in power, that Obama gets to stay in power. So I want to look at this Grizzly Step, and I want you to see it says any day now, the new aeon to be born, United States is holy Babylon, a reference to the number 636, which is the same as divine plan, nuclear bomb, beast of death, sociopath. Again, all of these pieces as well. It's the same as Whacking Day. This is where we discover how the Simpsons came to worship the serpent. This is very important, because whacking is the 23rd, or W is the 23rd letter, D is the 4th, just like Walt Disney, just like a million other times I show you that if you mirror and add that, it's the 666. And again, the Shiva directive, her hanging outside of the CERN facility. I want you to see the ES values here, the same as 11-pointed star. Again, think back to all of the stuff with Statue of Liberty, as well as January 19th. Now, take a look at this here, because I have a few ways that you can reduce this down. But I want you to see that ultimately we can look at this as an inversion of 199, because again, that is a very critical thing to almost constantly do when breaking these down. But I want you to see that 199 is the same as Pilgrim Society, the Tetragrammaton, Do What Thou Wilt, the Solar System, Apocalypse, Angel of God, the Magnificent Seven, District of Columbia. Again, that brings us all the way back to our DC discussion in the beginning, as well as Ignorance is Violence and Planned Genocide of America. So as always, I'm not saying that any of these days are necessarily going to usher in that just imminent destruction of everything on the massive scale that it needs to in order to cleanse and restore everything, but that we should keep our eyes on a number of these days, because very important pieces could be released, could be coming along. And again, if you watch all of my previous videos, it is really fascinating to see how all of this ties up. And notice as well, since we're here, the Jewish value, the 636 that came up, since we happen to be this with Ulysses S. Grant having that symbol of 199, Wyoming happens to have that English value of 636 as well. And so again, noticing Fox News, Destroy, Sirius, and up top here, New Order of the Ages, restores divine path in triple number sequence 888. And I am going to just show you this one more time on the way out here, so that you can see that 888, Donald J. Trump, the path of none, death, destruction, all of these things does come up here. I absolutely urge you to go watch my Economist cover video, because again, talking about all of these pieces here, you have your 44, Mark of the Beast, this is for Scarlet Woman, this is a big deal, and also this 6 of Hearts, because this is the trick that David Blaine messed up on, the card he messed up on live, and again, that doesn't just happen with a man as big as himself. All of those sorts of things. It was premonitious of him being shot, or Trump, because as I've shown you in the past, there is definitely a relationship between those two, and there is much to be gleaned from understanding it, alright? And so again, noticing these are all just the same as Dante's Inferno, Satanic Hexagram, on and on and on. But I do want to try to cut it there. So again, try to be at peace with the world around you as best you can, because if any of these things that I'm looking for actually start to come into play, there really won't be anything that you can do about it except accept it as the reality and to try to progress from that point. So in any case, thank you again, everybody, for taking the time to watch this video. I really, really appreciate it, and please, please be well.